Hey y'all, Brandy here. So it is the end of August, going into September, and we got a bit of a cold snap. By that, I mean it is about 87 degrees right now. It feels like God turned the AC on. So I've got an iced coffee, and I came out to the garden to enjoy it outside for a little while. It doesn't feel like you're in Hades. Um, And I've been watching some paranormal stories here lately, and I have a couple of my own, as you may know. I used to do paranormal cases, maybe a couple of story times. Never did a lot of story times. That being said, I did have a couple come to mind, so I want to share with you. Mm, One about the cursed road that I live on. I don't know if everybody calls it cursed, but I definitely do. Um, a lot of strange things they tend to happen around here. I don't live in Appalachia, but I do live in Louisiana, and we have our own kind of crazy down here. But hang on a second, and I'll take you down here and I'll show you the road. Um, it's LA 528. If any of you guys know anything about that kind of stuff, we call it the Bellevue Road. Um, it has like a meat packing plant sort of thing going on, and I believe it's also home to one of the shallowest oil places. I don't know what you would call it. Let me sip my coffee on the old truck, and I'll turn you around and show you the road. It's just a road. There we go. Now, right across the street, nobody lives there. They haven't for years. You probably can't even see it. It's so grown up. But that is a trailer over there. That isn't part of the story, but it's creepy AF, right? Let me show you this. Now, this is in my front yard. This is directly across the street. That building over there that you can barely see, back off in there, used to be a trailer. We'll get to that in a moment. Hang on. All right, so that is just my little portion of Bellevue Road. So back in the 70s, there was an elderly couple. They ran a successful construction business here in our town. And anyway, they led a successful construction business here. And very early one morning, about 2 or 3 a.m., they had some visitors that came off of the interstate here, I-20. And they broke into their home. They proceeded to do some very bad things to this elderly couple. Horrific things. Starts with a T, the word that they did. And then they ultimately deleted them from our planet. They were caught and convicted, and they went to prison for life. I'm not sure if they were put to death or not, but that's what happened. And that is about 2 miles down the road. Now, there is another thing that happened a couple of years ago. I have a good friend. I went to high school with her. We went to the same high school. Her father lived alone by himself, and it was in a very small house. You know how they will have those, sorry, put my coffee down here. Anyway, you know how they have those metal buildings that convert into houses? Well, that's what this was. It was one of those little tiny homes, but it was made out of like a larger metal shed, right? Perfect for one little person. And one night he thought that he heard somebody outside, and that happens quite frequently around here. There's never anybody there. But he got his very large pew and went outside to take a look. Nothing was there. So he went back in, and for some reason, I don't know if he was just a little incoherent that early in the morning, or if he did it on purpose, but he took it to bed with him. And his girlfriend happened to be staying over, and it went off and got him in the head, and he was no more. That was ruled an accidental death, and the place stayed empty for a long time, and now there's somebody else that lives there. I'm not quite sure who they are. I see them, but the odd thing is that they have, oh my gosh, it must be like a dozen, like a dozen big dogs that they take good care of, but they're all in the front yard. They're enclosed, but that's kind of strange. But yeah, so it's lived in. Don't know if anything strange has happened there or not. This one hits a little closer to home, and that is maybe half a mile down the road that happened. And like I said, that was about 7 years ago, maybe. This one is a little more recent. It's directly across the street, the metal buildings that I showed you. My mother has a best friend. They've been friends for, my gosh, over 20 years, since I was teeny tiny. And she has an ex-husband. They have been divorced for longer than my mother and she have been friends. They have some children together. But her ex-husband, we'll call him Blaine, right? We'll call him Blaine. So Blaine has been our neighbor for as long as we've owned the house, 30 years. He's lived across the street in a rental mobile home. And he was a recluse, I'll say. Kind of a curmudgeon. I didn't really know him very well at all because he really never spoke to anybody. I would see his little car leaving for work. I think he was a welder or maybe a machinist by trade. Yet again, I'm not sure. And every now and then my dad would go check on him. Not that he would ever answer the door, but we would see his car home and everything and assume things were okay. And sorry about that. Don't know what happened. Anyway, one day, as I was saying, we stopped seeing Blaine's car, and he had a little dog. We called him Scruffus. He was a little white terrier. He would have been a beautiful dog, but he was a stray, and Blaine didn't believe in, I guess baths for him. And Scruffus probably wouldn't have taken one anyway. But other than that, he was fed, he was tended to, that kind of thing. Anyway, and he had a lot of cats over there. Tons of cats, I remember. But it was around Christmas time, and his ex-wife was over here with my mother visiting, and I guess his daughter, one of his daughters, had decided that she was going to get to the bottom of why he wasn't answering his phone. I guess they hadn't heard from him in a long time. And keep in mind, I'll say that he was pretty much a recluse, a hermit. So she went over there with her daughter, and she was bound and determined to get into the house because he didn't answer the door. And I believe she moved a window unit out of the way, and the first thing that she could see was a hand in a very bad condition on the floor. And this woman is a nurse. She is an ICU nurse. She was a step-down nurse, and I'm not exactly sure what department she's working in at the moment, but she had a lot of experience, and it was one of the worst things that she's seen. And I can only imagine it being her father. She sent her daughter over here to get her mother because she saw the car in the driveway, and her mother and my father proceeded to go over. And obviously something was horribly wrong. And they called the police and everything, and after an investigation, he was sick, and I guess his illness returned. There was no foul play involved. I believe there was a note or a couple of notes or something left, and it appears as if he took himself out. But it was months, you guys, prior to when he was found that happened. He'd been over there in that trailer for months. Like I said, we knocked on the door. I guess we could have called maybe the police for a wellness check, but I just never thought about it. So keep an eye on your neighbors. I feel terrible. Like, I can't even explain to you how bad I feel about that. But that is the first time that I have seen people enter a home wearing Tyvek and respirators to clean it out. They kind of folded that thing up like a tin can and burned it and buried it in the ground over there. It's just horrible. And that was directly across the street. And then back to place number 1, and this was maybe 6 months ago. There was a couple. They were probably middle-aged. I believe they were middle-aged. They were also business owners of a successful business here in town. They lived in approximately the same area. I think it may have even been the same house. That part I'm not sure about, so don't quote me on that. But if it wasn't, it was very, very close to there. I think some infidelity was going on and divorce was being talked about. The husband deleted his wife and then himself, and that was a horrible thing, and a pretty bad day. But like I said, all of that has happened on Bellevue Road here in Louisiana. So that is why I call it cursed. But anyway, if you guys happen to have any of those stories about cursed roads in your area, I would love to hear them. My email is in the, I think it's in my bio, my about page. If not, I will put it in the description box down below. I want to get back into the paranormal thing. I enjoy it, and I definitely enjoy hearing about it. You know, I believe that there are people that are just kind of intuitive and things happen to them or around them. And, you know, I've had my fair share of things, and I'm sure a lot of people have. From what I understand, it seems like that sort of thing is ramping up. So, get in touch with me with your stories, and I will be back with more of my own. Might even sprinkle in some cases. Those are a little bit more involved, but like I said, I really enjoy them, and I've enjoyed talking to you guys. So if you happen to be in this area and you are having this wonderful weather, please enjoy it. And if it's still hot where you guys are, oh, I'm praying for you. And if it's freezing where you guys are, there are some people that would actually like to be in your shoes at the moment. But cuddle up and stay warm and cozy. When you live in a place, guys, where the land has some bad juju on it, you might want to say your prayers and keep your doors and windows locked, and stay safe. So until next time, I will see you guys later.